Hello everyone, welcome to Build or Buy. I want to thank you for joining us. Today what we hope to achieve is, this is a two-part video. Welcome to Build or Buy, I'm your host Gil Boyd. First thing we're going to do is a behind the scenes video. In this video, we're going to be looking at a borescope, and with this borescope, which is an endoscope, what we're going to show you is a behind the scenes. This is an unboxing and setup, and what we're going to show you is how we're going to take a look with a little bitty camera to look at a little bitty place, how we get a great big picture to look at upgrading an NVMe drive. Now I will say that when we get to part two, which is about the NVMe drive, you have to think ahead and plan ahead, because the reason we're upgrading that drive is about virtual instruments, but we'll get into that in the next video. Now the unboxing and setup of this is just a scope, not the scope we might end up using. And the reason I say that is because the requirements when you're looking for something, we're always looking for a better way to do things. It's like, how do you do an overhead shot? We've talked some about that behind the scenes under Gil Boyd. And I'm probably going to be putting more of that stuff behind the scenes up on Build or Buy to show both sides. But back to the endoscope, this is just one particular endoscope. What we were looking for is something that would give us the ability to see something in a very tight area, that will give us a 1080 resolution. But we also need something that will either record, and this one we're going to look at will record to a micro SD card, or number two, it has something like a HDMI out port. Now there's another endoscope we're going to be looking at later that does meet those requirements. However, that endoscope, because of the way it works with USB, and we have seen SDI, and that would be our preference. Those are very expensive. We need something inexpensive to go with everything else we've got that, well, I think we have a very professional setup. We're able to shoot with 3 or 4 cameras. But anyway, using that secondary endoscope, we would have to have a laptop to be able to see what we're doing. So then the laptop with the HDMI becomes an input on the switch, which makes that real easy to work with. This particular endoscope does not have an HDMI out. This particular endoscope also does not do anything with USB. So since we don't have HDMI and since we don't have USB, our third option then is to record to this, which it will do with a micro SD card. Now, out in the field, this is a wonderful idea, but here in the studio, I'm not sure this is going to be our best solution. Because what you're going to see is, as we do this unboxing and setup, is we'll put the SD card in it, power this thing up, and as we look in the computer at this tiny little spot, we'll see what kind of view we get. The video that you're going to see with my voice will be something I add in later through editing, so you can see in real time, what appears to be real time, what I'm doing. Whereas if it were the one that works with USB or one that has an HDMI out, everything that I say and everything you see is in real time. You have to remember there's 3 conversations going on in my head when I'm doing this. What I say, what you see, and what I'm doing. And those 3 conversations have to occur in real time. It's a concert. There's some other items in here. Some of this pertains to the endoscope. Some of it pertains to the computer that we're going to be working with. And since we're doing this with virtual instruments, that's the reason for the upgrade. We're going to go from a 1 terabyte to a 2 terabyte NVMe drive for the boot drive. And we'll recycle the 1 terabyte drive to do some other crazy things that we're doing. We're still waiting through all these quad cards with NVMe drives. So a 1 terabyte drive, we'll find a use for it. I don't see a problem with that. So as we open this, we've got memory. Bought this as a set, 2 sticks of memory. These are 64 gig sticks. Now this particular endoscope can only go up to 64 gigs. So if you've got 64 gigs or less, it's fine. If you've seen some of the deals at Costco where you can get a couple of sticks of 64 gig, speed-wise it shouldn't be an issue. This is 1080 resolution, it's not 4K. So those two, we'll set them aside. The endoscope, and we also have, well, that's interesting. That's a Rocket NVMe 2 terabyte. Man, I got to tell you, can the packaging get any smaller? Wow. Now this particular drive is from Sabrent. It's got some good reviews on it. And at the time we bought this, this was the biggest we could get. Sabrent has now come out with a 4 terabyte. And for those doing virtual instruments, I would strongly recommend the 4 terabyte. Yes, it's pricey. How long will it last? Okay. The system we've been doing our virtual instruments on, we've had it 2, maybe 3 years of usage with a 1 terabyte drive. And all of a sudden, we're out of soap. We can't add any more instruments. And when the deals come along, we can't take advantage of them. So we're moving to a 2 terabyte. Based on our experience of a couple of years, I'm hoping we get at least a year out of this. Now, because the 4 terabyte has been announced, I would strongly encourage you to do the 4 terabyte. But I'm just saying, from a virtual instrument standpoint, the 4 terabyte makes a whole lot of sense. 1 drive for everything to go on it, and you're not having to mess with it again for a while. But in a couple of years, we will be upgrading this again. But I'm amazed at the size of the packaging. This is incredible. So there's our drive, and this is our brown box. So we're going to open that up, see what we've got. And this is what we have. Free surprise gift. That's all about they want us to do a review. I know where those come from. Dear friend, thank you very much for purchasing our products on Amazon. Service at Facamword.com. Oh, please contact us if you have any questions. We'll try our best to help solve your problem. We supply 18-month free replacement if you have any questions about the product. Didn't know that. Like that. And please scan our QR code with your phone or enter the below website to get a free surprise gift. Who knows? Anyway, we'll hang on to that. So what we're going to see here is we've got the cable. There's the camera. It's about the size of a #2 pencil. Nice long cable. And what do we have here? This is also a cable. Looks like the USB cable for power. Yep, set that there. The camera. And this is a two-part piece here. We have the camera attached, and then this is the lens. See what else we have here. A user manual, and we have interchangeable pieces on the front, little rings. Looks like one with a hook for gripping, one with a side mirror. Oh, how curious. And one with a magnet. And I'm not sure what the fourth ring does. So we've got one with a hook, one with a magnet, and it works. Handy. And one with a little mirror at an angle. That's most interesting. And this ring, I'm not sure how that's going to work, what that does. But anyway, that's the four pieces that are in the box. And those are all in this little tube. So for now, we'll just put them back in the tube. We'll go through these little items and see how they perform. Looks like they could have made that a little smaller. Now the user manual. LCD handheld digital endoscope. Welcome features. Welcome buying the product. Features a 4.3-inch full color LCD screen for real-time viewing. Resolution 1080 for image capture and video recording. TIFF card can be installed to achieve file storage function. I believe that's what they would call a micro SD card. 5.5/8mm two-size high sensitivity waterproof lenses with clear image quality for different working environments. Special technology with a focal length of 4 centimeters to 500 centimeters. Good to know. Video, take a photo, 4.3-inch TFT, what they call a TF card, which I guess is a micro SD card. 1080 resolution, IP67, so some waterproofing. 6 LED lights, nice. And the USB. Okay, the application, tubular water pipe cleaning, shipbuilding, industry machinery, electronics. I think that fits us. So with the electronics, let's see. Accessory list. Okay, we've got the LCD digital endoscope, user manual, which we're looking at, USB cable, accessories, which would be hooks, magnets, side mirror, and protective cap. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that what last little item in there is a protective cap to go over the end of this. That makes sense. Parts and function. Number 1 is light adjustment up and down button right there. Number 2, recording OK button. Number 3, down button. Number 4, return file view button. And then number 5 would be the power setting button. So far so good. Didn't realize we was going to have power for this thing. So that's going to be another issue. Didn't realize that. I figured we'd probably have some batteries that would go in there. Okay, so I'm going to plug in a UPS. That'll give me a power. I don't have a power tap up here with me, and I can get power to that right here by me. You do what you have to. So in the bottom of this, we can see right here, reset DC 5 volt and the TF card. The micro SD card goes right there. So let's get the card in. So this is a new animal for both of us. So good thing we ordered some memory for it. We'll get a micro SD card in there and see what we've got. And these are 64 gig cards, and that's the largest it'll take is a 64 gig card. So these just happen to be SanDisk. And these are micro SD UHS-1 cards with adapters. Adapters meaning I can go from micro SD up to SD, so I can take this and put it in a laptop if I choose to. Okay, memory card is in. I heard it click. Now all we need to do is hook up power to this and see what we've got. Okay, should be able to turn it on. Oh wow, I saw a light come out through there. Power's on. There's a light coming out through here. And we have video. Please format the card. Alrighty. Well, this gets interesting. Okay, resolution 1080, language, English, date and time. It's not a touch screen. So we'll tab down, menu, date and time, 2020, and this is 7/22 and 28. Yeah, that's fine. So date and time, date stamp, brightness. Brightness should be okay where it's at. It's pretty bright here. And then we've got LCD brightness, that's off. Auto power off is off. Format. So now we'll format the card. Last one in the menu. Sorry for the reflection, that's the overhead camera. Didn't know it was going to be. Format the card. Formatting. And that's done. That didn't take too long. Curious. So now we should be ready to take pictures or whatever. So let's see if we can exit out of the menu and see what we've got. The tough thing is going to be trying to hold this still while we're looking at stuff. And that is a very grainy video. Although it will let us see in very tight places, to me that's a very grainy video for 1080 video, so it's not as high quality as I'd hoped it'd be. But we'll see when we look into the computer how it's going to do. So that's an unboxing and setup. Let's take a quick look inside a computer so we can kind of see if it's going to do what we want. Any of this stuff, you never know till you try it, and this sounded like a great idea on paper, but is it a good idea in practice? That's what we're trying to find out. So far, the image I'm seeing, I'm not that impressed with. It looks really, really grainy compared to the professional equipment we've got. But these cameras cost a whole lot more than this did. We'll put up a link to it. So now what we're going to do is get a computer up here and take a look and see how good that light is that it's supposed to shine in there. Now it shows I can turn that light on or off, but until I'm looking inside, there's no point. We'll see if the image gets any better. So setting up the camera was pretty simple and straightforward. It was nice to have the instructions, and of course, if anybody's interested, because of this tiny print, with us doing it on the overhead camera, it allows you to see what this thing looks like. The actual video that we're going to show, again, you won't see it in real time, but we'll see it when we do the edit. And I'm curious. We're going to find out. If it doesn't meet our needs or expectations, then adios. Now what we're going to be looking inside is this X399 build that's going to be doing some amazing things in time. And since we're going to be doing virtual instruments on it, we've got to have at least a 2 terabyte drive. So that's what we're going to be using for the experiment. So we can look, and you'll see in a minute. Looking at this from the overhead shot, you know, we can only see so much so far. And trying to take a camera and shoot in there at an angle, we can only see so much. We've got to have a camera that'll get down in there so I can show you what we're talking about, which is a part of the next video. Let's see how well this looks inside. Okay, the overhead shot, what we're trying to do is to get down in here. And you see this video card takes up 2 lanes. Because it takes 2 lanes, what we're trying to do, we're trying to look at the hook, this shoe that locks these cards in. Now, when I flip that down, that's fine. But when you put a card in, that flips up and locks. And you can't pull the card up no matter what. You got to reach in there with a screwdriver and slide that lock open. That's what we're getting ready to look at to see if we can look underneath there. What am I talking about? Right here where the cooler and the video card is, because this video card is 2 slots. Humongous video card, humongous cooler, and what we need to do is the notch that we need to access is on this side right here. It's not over here. So that little slide that you see right here sticking out is not the one we need. We need the one that's sitting right here, and the only way to get to it is through over here. So we have 3 options. Take this out, take this out. And of course the third option is do it right the first time so you don't have to do this the second time. But you know, here's where we are, and I'm sure we're not the only ones going to be in this spot. There's going to be a lot of people, NVMe is a big deal, who are going to say, well, 1 terabyte's fine. On a laptop, I agree. But on a desktop, not so much. 2 terabytes preferable. Virtual instruments, a 4 terabyte. So when it comes time and you got to pull that video card out, if you've got one of these big rascals in here, you got to figure out how to get under there, and that's what we're going to show you. So let's see if we can see it. So as we flip over, the overhead shot only gives us so much. We're going to look at this with this other camera, and we're going to see how well this gets down in there. Now this is a bit awkward to mess with. First thing I need to do is to release some of this cable that's all wound up, and I'm going to hang onto this gingerly because I can see this could become a mess. I think I'll put some different Velcro in here if we keep it, and I'm not convinced yet this is the best way to do this. It's one thing to have one cable that I've got to put in here, and again, this is a great idea in a mobile environment. If I were trying to scope a drain or a pipe, or like if I was an electrician looking at a wall, this comes in pretty handy. But my concern is I've got to have power. Now, will this battery charge? I'm under the impression that it will. But right now, since there is no charge, we're having to keep it plugged in. That's inconvenient because I'm having to watch two cables. One, the USB cable for power, and two, the camera. So now we're going to see if we can eyeball this and get down in here and look in this tiny little spot. See how well it does what we want. Here we go. Okay, what you're going to see as we look at this is the journey going down in there. Now that looks pretty darn good. Question is, will it get down there to see what we want to see? I'm right beside the memory, and I'm trying to get a feel for where the top is. I still don't see the notch I'm looking for, so I'm going to go exploring just a little bit further. I'm looking at the motherboard, and I'm looking at the video card, and there's no way I could have done this without this camera. The question is, does it show me what I want to see? If I can leave that sitting, because I believe that's the hook we're looking for. So now what I need is a straight blade screwdriver. I need a regular size screwdriver, not a micro screwdriver. I've done this before, so because I've done this before, it gave me the idea that I need to do this with a camera so you guys can see it. So, you know, whenever somebody has a problem with something, no matter how crazy it is, there's always going to be somebody else that's had that problem. They need to figure out some way to show it and figure it out. That's what we're trying to do. Here it is. Okay, got a screwdriver, and I'm going to change the blade out on this to a flat blade, just a straight screwdriver. And what I need to do is stick this down in that little tight hole and pop that little release. And the question is, will I be able to show it? Will I be able to see it? The light alone is very handy. That should be the hook I'm looking at. Yep, that's the tab that I need to pull down. Got it. Wow, that was amazing. I needed that to go down. That's the easiest I have ever done that. I got to tell you, the light on the end of this thing did me more good than the camera did, because the light allowed me to look down there and see what I was doing. So I'm a little bit more impressed, because now that I've got that lever flipped down right there, we can now get the video card out. So this is a two-part video that we're trying to do to show, and I'm just going to keep going. Now, let me just preface one thing. For those that talk about what a mess, I don't believe a thing the guy's saying. Nothing about any of the computers we build is permanent. This is not a permanent installation. Everything is something in play. We may swap out the power supply, in which case all those cables come out. We may swap out the video card, in which case those cables that are connected come out. So everything is in play. The only thing that's kind of semi-permanent would be the motherboard and the CPU. Once they're stuck together, we leave them. Once we have the cooler on there, those three items are pretty much it. RAM could change. On this particular system, RAM is probably going to stay like it is. But those three items are pretty consistent. But all these cables and stuff, I'm not putting those in and spending 2 hours to wire that down just to make a pretty picture. This is a work in progress. It's always going to be a work in progress, because even though this is an X399, it's going to be a workhorse. There's going to be times where, for example, we've got a, this one has a 1,000 watt power supply in it. Well, that's really nice. Only problem with that, it's EVGA. That's going to get swapped out. To what? Could be Superflower, could be something else. So let's stay tuned. But when the power supply comes out, the cables come out with it, and we rewire the whole thing. So I'm just saying none of this is permanent. So let's stay focused on what we're after, and that is to get the video card out, which we've released the latch. So now all we have to do is unscrew the screw, two screws that are holding it in. Once the video card is out, then we can pull out the NVMe drive and put in the upgrade from 1 terabyte to 2 terabyte. So part 2 of the video. Hello everybody, welcome to Builder Buy. I'm your host Gil Boyd, and we are upgrading an NVMe drive from a 1 terabyte to a 2 terabyte. And if you've seen the previous video, we used an endoscope so we could see how to get the latch loose so we can get the video card out so we can get a new drive under there. And remember, all these cables in here, this is a temporary installation, because this power supply, although it is large enough, because it's EVGA, we have no way of knowing when they change manufacturing. And since they're not using the manufacturer they used to, this power supply for this computer is going to come out, which means all those cables that are on are going to come out. So this is temporary. So get past how unorganized it looks and how sloppy it is. It's not about that. This video is about swapping out the NVMe drive. And that's what we're doing, and that's what we're showing. We probably won't do a video on the power supply, but if you guys are interested, we can. If you want to do one on doing a neat wiring in a case, I guess we can do that too. We're more about the guts and the electronics and the heart of the machine, but we're swapping stuff in and out all the time. So This is all temporary. Remember that. Okay, video card is loose. So all we have to do now is pull out these 2 screws in the back. And I need to suit up. 1, 2. This is one thing I don't like is swapping out video cards because that thing is hard to get hold of. But I will, and I do. And the endoscope really made it a whole lot easier. It wasn't so much the camera to let me see, but it was the light on the end of the camera that let me see. And because of the cable that's on it, I was able to wrangle it in there and see what I was doing with my trusty screwdriver with a straight blade and do what I had to do. So let me suit up right quick, get a bag for the video card so I can set it aside. Then we'll go after the NVMe. Now for those of you that have never seen somebody suit up like this to do a machine, read the reviews about the people who are having motherboards that are dying from ESD anywhere from initially to 30 days out. That's electrostatic discharge, and because these motherboards are packaged the way they are, they're extremely sensitive. We used to never use them either. We've been building computers for a long time, but now I suit up. Bag for the video card. Yep, that's a motherboard bag. I always thought that stuff would come in handy someday. And out she goes. And that is a Radeon 9100 Pro. WX 9100 Pro. That's overkill. But for what we do, I think it's going to be just right for this machine. Okay, now we've got some screws to get out. To remove that screw on this heatsink, that's an Allen wrench. You want to be careful not to drop that stuff, but if you've got a borescope that's got a magnet on the end of it, it'll make it easy to get that stuff back out. But be careful and try not to drop those. I speak from experience, as usual. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention. This is curious. I'm going to end up using one of these little special caps that come with the endoscope so that I can get that screw out of there. I'll use the one with a magnet. Okay, cover's intact. Got the screw out. And no, we have not pulled the cover off of these drives. We leave the covers on because, again, so much stuff gets changed out. This is temporary. If you want to peel the covers off, that's fine. So you get better thermal conductivity. Manufacturers cannot tell you not to. They're not allowed to do that. That's a no-no. So we've got this loose. We're going to pull this out. And that will take a micro screwdriver. Phillips, too small. So that's loose. Now we need some place to put it. All right, 970 EVO 1 terabyte. Found a box for that. We're going to change this out, and we're going to put a Sabrent Rocket NVMe PCIe M.2. And this is a high-performance M.2 PCI Express Generation 3. So that's PCI Express 3.0 by 4. Each one of these takes 4 lanes. It includes a Cronus. We don't use a Cronus, and that's another video I'll get into sometime. But we don't use a Cronus. Had a real bad experience with that. Put that on a machine, you can't get it off. So we don't use a Cronus. We prefer Macrium Reflect. To each his own. So we gingerly open the package. That was factory sealed. Nice little case. Taped shut. So we'll cut that seal. Why don't they do motherboards like this anymore? I'm just saying. Crazy, isn't it? Nice little metal box. Little manual that comes with it. We'll set that aside. So we're going to pull this one out. Set it aside. Put this one in it. 2 terabyte. Now because we've already had Windows installed on this machine, when we go to do this, we'll go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity to do another clean install. I could have cloned the drive, but I'm not interested in doing that. And it gives us a chance to see what the install is going to do and how it's going to behave, how it's going to perform. We look at that as a test opportunity. That drive is down. For now, we'll take this other drive, put it in here till it finds a home. That's nice. Very interesting. So now all we need to do is get our screws put back on. The screw to secure the drive, which happens to be sitting down inside, which also means we're going to use the little magnetic top. Never needed this. Now I've used it twice. So now we'll reach inside and grab that screw sitting there. Get our drive secure. And remember, typically the larger drives perform faster. They have better specs on them, better throughput. So some of the stuff we're doing with testing on the NVMe drives on the quad cards, you have to remember the size of the drive greatly influences what those speeds are that we're seeing on those cards. So we have a 2 terabyte drive in there now. We have the first screw put down right here. Now we got to put the cover back on, and no, I'm not pulling the label off. And again, the reason to reiterate that I'm not pulling the label off, we may be changing this drive out to a 4 terabyte. So it's nice to have the label so I can see what I'm looking at, so I know. Because you get a lot of parts like this, it's hard to know what's what when you start taking labels off. So now let's do the heat sink. Heat sink will go back down, and the video card will go back over that. And now that the video card is out, you can kind of see what was involved in getting that to work like we needed it to. Now before I secure that, you can see down here, I'll point to it with a screwdriver. You can see right here how difficult this was to get to. So you can see this, but this was covered. We could see this portion of it once the video card's in. What we couldn't see very well was this one right here. So we used the camera to look underneath there and show us that slot, and we went in from this angle. By doing that, we didn't have to take out the cooler. All we had to take out was the video card. So we could get to this and make that lay down, which is kind of a hassle, but it works. So now the screw that goes on top, right there. It's also good to have a set of Allen wrenches around. You never know when you'll need them for doing stuff like this. Okay, now we have that secure. All we got to do now is put the video card back in, plug in the power, and we're going to do a clean install of Windows. Doesn't take long. It's good practice. Once Windows has been installed, the activation key has been created with Microsoft, so once you plug in the internet, it activates again. You don't have to do an activation. It's just that I like doing those because the Windows Media Creation tool is different. For example, when this class of machine was built with the X399 chipset, the version of Windows we had at that time, Windows would blow up on you and you would not get an install finished. And with all the stuff everybody else said to do was not the way to do it. The best way was to take those drivers for that particular Wi-Fi card, because we upgraded the Wi-Fi card, and to slipstream those drivers. Okay, going forward with the new build of Windows, with the new Wi-Fi card that's out, Wi-Fi 6 I believe, same problem. You've got to slipstream the drivers so you can get a clean install so you don't get a BSOD. We got a video up on that. It's conceptual. Works with drivers for just about anything, but it's really handy with this new stuff that's eventually, give it about 6 months or so, Microsoft will have it fixed, but you know, it's always who's on top of things, hardware, software. It's always been that way. As long as you know how to fix it, that's what counts. Okay, video card's going to go back in. Okay, we never had to touch the cooler. All we had to do is release the latch. We changed out the NVMe drive, so all we need to do now is get the video card installed. We put it in the side in an anti-static bag, and this thing is heavy, like a brick. So we'll get this in and get the power plugged back into it. Now you have to remember, we have two 16-lane slots and two 8-lane slots. We're going to be using this X399 motherboard, which is a gigabyte board, to do a lot of our testing and evaluation with as we're checking out these quad cards. And once we get through all these quad cards for PCI Express 3, then we're going to build about, if I were going to build, what do I need to know and where do I find the information? And I think hopefully you'll find that information helpful. Part of that's based on what we do for research, and part of that's based on a question we had from one of our subscribers. Do I build X399 or do I build TRX40? PCI Express 3 versus PCI Express 4. Either way, you've got two 16-lane slots and two 8-lane slots, and there's only so much you can do with the resources. But your chipset's the foundation for your motherboard, and I can make a case for the X399. I can also make a case for the TRX40. So this is an X399. We built two. And once you understand resource allocation and what resources are available, then it's hard to build anything less, especially if you want to upgrade. Some of the lesser chipsets, you just don't have any room to upgrade, and that is annoying. But we've got some build specs up you can take a look at, and we make a case for the X399 why we think it's affordable. Because your computer is basically three things: RAM, motherboard, and processor. Once you've got those three things, plus the cooler, which makes 4, and then possibly your power supply, which is number 5. But 3 items, the 4th one being your cooler, RAM, motherboard, and processor. Get on the foundation, get on a firm foundation with your chipset, which is your motherboard. Choose your CPU that lets you get into that foundation, whatever it is, whatever's the best bang for the buck. And as for RAM, whether it's something like this, it's 4-channel, or whether it's something like the TRX40, which is 8-channel, look at the manual, see what the minimum amount of RAM is you can get on, even if it's dual channel. So you can get 2 sticks of whatever and look at the quantity count so that you can get onto the platform, and those things like RAM you can upgrade later. Just saying. Okay, we got our video card installed. We got to get the screws down to it. Okay, getting the video card secured. Now we got 2 power taps to plug in. One 8-pin and one 6-pin. So we'll do the 8-pin on top first, and then the 6-pin on bottom second. Power taps are done. Now we happen to have a separate I/O card in here for USB ports, so I got to plug that back in. Voila. Okay, now what have we done here? 2 things. One, we've looked at an endoscope, which I'm kind of on the fence about. The light on the endoscope did more good than the actual camera, but you know, we'll see. And the purpose of the endoscope was so we could look inside the computer and take a look and see where that notch was that we need to flip down that we're trying to show you. And the light on the endoscope did more good than the actual camera did. Now the image we can show you is that notch right there. As we're looking down here, we're looking here on the screen at what we're seeing, and that is the notch right there in the center of that screen that we need to flip down. The image is not real good, but it's a work in progress. It's the first look at what we're trying to achieve. It's not great, but it's not bad. It gets the job done. We'd like something with a little bit better clarity. So that's behind the scenes, and that's build or buy. I hope you enjoyed that. We want to thank you for watching. Now what we've got to do is we've got to get Windows up on this machine again. So we'll run our USB stick, go through the drivers, and do all that good stuff. And by the way, this machine just happens to have a Thunderbolt card in it. So we've done some Thunderbolt. We're going to do some more Thunderbolt, and we're going to do some Thunderbolt on the TRX-40. And for those that think the TRX-40 motherboards are expensive, well, we can make the case for when you have a quad card and a Thunderbolt card, and that's part of the package, that motherboard is really not that expensive at all. So thanks for watching. Hope you'll stick with us. We got some more stuff coming up. We're going to finish this up, and then we're going to get into the next video. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. You guys are great. Appreciate it if you'd subscribe. Thanks for watching. My name's Gil Boyd, and I think we're done.